Hey guys, it's Lauren Bailey with Fit Girls Have More Fun. I'm in a couple of different just online groups and communities for fitness related topics. Someone was mentioning that they had a problem with shin splints. So I wanted to try and give some advice, and I know that a lot of people suffer from this, so hopefully it will help some people out in their training. I first started getting shin splints when I played tennis in high school, and ever since then, anytime I do any running, which is not often, y'all know I'm not a cardio bunny, I don't do a whole lot of running. I'll do like short, quick sprints, and my shin splints usually don't bother me in that case. If I run for any length of time, or on certain surfaces, my shin splints will be worse. But I've come up with some techniques that help and minimize my shin splints, so I want to share those with you guys now. Now, what shin splints are really, why they happen, is basically a muscle imbalance. So you have your shin here. A lot of people will get shin splints on the outside, in the front of the lower portion of their leg. My shin splints typically happen more so on the inside of the lower leg. And basically what's happening, the muscles that are in the front of your leg are usually weaker than the muscles that are in the back of your leg. Your calf muscles get a lot more work than the muscles in the front of your leg. So there's usually just an imbalance there. And when you're running and you're constantly, having impact and you're pulling your toes up, the muscles in the front of your leg that are weaker will become inflamed, and then they're applying pressure and pushing against that bone, and so you feel a lot of inflammation and discomfort. So that's a little bit about why you're feeling what you're feeling and what's happening with the muscles. Now I'm going to tell you how to avoid that and what to do if you have shin splints. First thing you should do is always warm up. This usually prevents 70% of my shin splints. If I do these warm-up exercises first, it warms up the muscles, plus it trains it over time. It strengthens those muscles so that you don't have such a muscle imbalance, and it can prevent the flare-ups from happening in the first place. So what I do is anytime I'm going to be doing any kind of running, I do toe taps first. So I'll show you now what I'm talking about with toe taps. Okay, so here's how to do the toe taps that I was talking about. Just put your weight on your back leg, keep one leg slightly in front, and all you're going to do is just squeeze the muscles in front of the leg. You can see the muscles here activating, and lift the toe up and tap the toe back down on the floor. Do a brief pause at the top to really activate the muscle that's used to pull the toes up. Just lightly tap the toe back down. You're not trying to apply a bunch of force going down. You're really focusing on the lifting of the toe. So that's it. I do about 50 per leg, and that really gets the muscles warmed up. And if you do it consistently, when I was really suffering from shin splints a lot, I would do these daily, even if I wasn't running or anything. I would just, anytime during the day I would think about it, I would do those toe taps, even just sitting in my chair, to train those muscles. So that prepares you for the training that you're about to do, and a lot of times it will prevent the shin splints from happening at all, or it will at least minimize the pain that you experience. So what you want to do is start with your warm-up. Warm up with toe taps. Then do your training, and then immediately after training, cool down. Don't just stop cold turkey with your running. Then stretch out the muscles, and then once you're done, follow the RICE method. RICE means rest, ice, compression, and elevation. That's one of the old school trainer methods. Athletic trainers, that's what they follow. Rest, ice, compression, elevation. So when you're finished your training session, cool down, stretch, then apply some ice to your shins with like an ACE bandage. Keep some compression on there. That'll stop the inflammation. And if you can, elevate your leg. Anything to just reduce the swelling, the inflammation that's occurring in those muscles is going to reduce the amount of pain that you feel. Alright, so that's it. I hope that helps you guys out. I know it can be frustrating when you get excited and you start training, and then you have an injury or something like shin splints that holds you back. So try out these techniques. I really think that they'll help you, and they'll improve your training as well.